think the time has come to do a significant figure mini review. So I remember when I took Gen Chem 1, we had significant figures on a Friday. My class was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 2 with Dr. Trotwine. And we had sig figs on Friday, went home Friday night, spent my Friday night with my boyfriend thinking about significant figures because they were so upsetting. It wasn't until later that I figured out that they're not really that hard, and I'd like to show that to you. So starting out, I'm not even going to talk about the non-zero numbers. Regarding sig figs, we know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 all significant all the time. It's the zeros that cause all the problem. So you can have 3 kinds of zeros. You can have leading, and I always forget how to spell zeros, so I'm just going to do like that. Leading zeros. You can have captive zeros, and you can have trailing zeros. So when you first look at a problem, you know that these guys are all significant. The question is the zeros. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, what kind of zero is it? And I want you to identify it as leading, captive, or trailing. You see, leading zeros never, ever, ever count. Captive zeros always, always, always count. I know you've heard all this business about decimals, but they don't come into play until we get to trailing. With leading and captive, leading never count. I don't care if there's decimals there or not. Captive always counts. I don't care if there's decimals there or not. It's not until we get to trailing that we have a decimal question. So I am going to go ahead and separate this out. And if any of you remember Blackstreet from the 90s singing No Diggity, No Doubt, I always think to myself, no decimal, no count. If you don't remember Blackstreet and you don't remember No Diggity, No Doubt, stop this video and go look it up right now. Okay, so if there's no decimal, you don't count the trailing zero. And if there is a decimal, then you do count the trailing zero. So I've explained it, but I haven't given examples. Examples of leading zeros. 0.00123. These are leading. They never, ever, ever count. So this has 3 sig figs. Or it could be 0.0123. Or it could be 0.123. These are leading, so they don't count. 1, 2, 3, 3 sig figs. 1, 2, 3, 3 sig figs. Captive zeros. I love this term. I got this term from Zumdahl and Zumdahl's book, and I think that's when I first ever heard it. Captive zeros, like 102, 1023. It could be 10023. I don't know. I just want to stick with the 1, 2, 3s. They seem fun to me. Okay, but this guy's a little prisoner. He's a captive, and here's a prison guard, and here's a prison guard. They're not letting this guy escape, so he gets counted. You know how you have to make sure that all the prisoners are counted in prison, or at least from what I've seen of movies? So 1, 2, 3. 3 sig figs. This guy is captive. I should have put that down at the bottom. This guy's captive, so that's 4 sig figs. These 2 guys are captive, so that is 5 sig figs. Okay, now for the trailing zeros. So you can have trailing with no decimal or trailing with decimal. So trailing with no decimal would be like 1230, 1230. There's no decimal here, so this is trailing without decimal. So it's 3 sig figs. Or it could be 12,300. So those guys are trailing without a decimal. So it's only 3 sig figs. Okay, right here, it could be 123.0. This is trailing with a decimal. It's not a very good curly bracket. Trailing with 0. So that's 3 sig figs. 1.230. This one is trailing with a 0. I know the decimal's over here and that freaks some students out, but this whole thing still has a decimal. So that is 4 sig figs. Oops, I wasn't thinking here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That guy does count. I'm so sorry if I confused you. Okay, so 2 questions to ask yourself. What kind of 0? Well, 1 or 2 questions to ask yourself. What kind of 0 are you dealing with? Only if you're dealing with the trailing do you ask yourself if there's a decimal. No decimal, no count. Remember that. So let's mix it up. What if we had 0.001, 02, 003, 000? I should have been using my colored pencils here. Okay, so we'll make all these leadings orange, and we'll hope that I don't run out of time to record. Okay,